I just landed at the airport in San Salvador a little while ago. I'm now en route into the city, looking forward to meeting with the team from the American Embassy. And I do want to thank our Foreign Service officers and the whole team at this embassy and embassies around the world for all the good work they do on behalf of our country. I'm proud to co-chair the bipartisan Foreign Service Caucus that stands up for the men and women who are serving our country overseas and at home in the State Department. After that, I hope to meet with some high-level government officials from El Salvador. As I've said before, the goal of my visit is to talk to people here about the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I told his wife and his family I would do everything possible to bring him home, and we're going to keep working at this until we're successful. I also hope to have the chance to meet with him, but we'll have a better idea if that works out a little later on.
Thanks so much for joining me here at the Chris Highland Show. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thank you so much. We have a great day in the neighborhood today. It reminds me of good old Mr. Rogers. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood because we are going to check in with our noble Senator Van Huff, who went down to El Salvador to secure the release of known MS-13 gangbanger terrorist Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And we want to check in to see how that visit went. Spoiler alert, not too well. So we've got that. And then we've got blue on blue violence. We've got Democrat on Democrat violence going on in the middle of the DNC. I can say metaphorical violence, not actual violence. We're not in favor of any real political violence. But in the war of words and in the war of money, the Dems are being outdone by their own upstart David Hogg. We're going to check in with that story. But before we get started, again, thanks everybody for rolling up. Please smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Let's dive into our esteemed, I say that in air quotes, senator, as he went down to try to secure the release of known gangbanger terrorist Kilmar Abrego Garcia. As he said, he was going to get him back to live with his family in Maryland, even though the United States is not his country. He's a resident and a citizen of El Salvador. So how that's going to work, I have no idea, but let's check in and find out.
So I asked the vice president if I could meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. And he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT. I said, I'm not interested at this moment in taking a tour of CCOT. I just want to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. He said he was not able to make it happen. I asked, he said he needed a little more time. I asked him if I came back next week, whether I'd be able to see Mr. Abrego Garcia. He said he couldn't promise that either. So I asked him if I could get on the phone, either video phone, just a phone, and talk to Mr. Abrego Garcia. So I could just ask him how he's doing so I could report back to his family. He said he could not arrange that. He said maybe if the American Embassy were to ask, maybe that could happen. So I will certainly ask the American Embassy to ask the government of El Salvador to connect us by phone.
This is just too classic.
I asked him, how about his family? How can he talk to his wife so she can hear his voice? I let him know that the family has requested that. He said he was not sure whether he could make that happen.
In other words, the summary of this ridiculous press conference after Senator Van Huss went down there to make sure that Abrego Garcia was back home with his family, that he would be released. The government of El Salvador, not even the president, not Bukele, no, the vice president. So Bukele just shuffled it off to one of his staff members, not staff, he's the vice president, so he's a little more than a staff member. But anyway, he delegated it to someone else, has basically told the esteemed senator, pound sand. As we put in the thumbnail, go kick rocks. It is just absolutely classic. That he is being told by a much smaller country, no, you cannot visit a known terrorist. No, you cannot visit the prison. No, you cannot call him. No, you cannot take him meals. No, you cannot have him. I mean, it's absolutely classic. How many metaphors can we think of for what the El Salvadoran government just did to this esteemed senator? Go pound sand. Go kick rocks. Go take a flying leap. Go take a long walk off a short pier. How about just hell no? Get out of our country. They even went so far as to say, well, maybe if you ask the ambassador, the embassy, because frankly, we have more respect for the American ambassador, a member of the Trump administration, than we do for you. So maybe if you went to the American embassy and asked them and they talked to us, we might entertain it. But even then, I wouldn't get your hopes up. Because the first thing he said was, I need to see Abrego Garcia. Oh, no, you would have had to make prior arrangements for that. Oh, okay. Well, what if I come back next week? No, that's probably not going to be long enough. What if I come back next month? Let me see. The chances of that are slim and none, and Slim's out of town. This is just awesome. This is just absolutely classic. Now, this just makes me laugh. It tickles me pink to watch this idiotic senator just get owned by El Salvador. I mean, what was he thinking? Bukele was in the Oval Office just 2 days before this. He was asked by the media, are you going to release Abrego Garcia? And Bukele said, hell no. He said, first of all, what do you want me to do? Smuggle him into the country? I can't do that. That would be against American law. That would be an act of war. That'd be all sorts of bad things. And then they said, well, why don't you just release him in your country? He's like, no, because I just spent several years taking the murder capital of the world and turning it into the safest country in Central America. You think I want to go backwards by releasing known gangbanger terrorists? The El Salvadorian government knows who Kilmar Abrego Garcia is. Caroline Levitt, Stephen Miller have been on record telling us exactly who Abrego Garcia is. The courts have been on record. He was arrested. He's in this country illegally, which means he has no legal standing, basically other than I don't want to be deported and I'm going to try to prove I'm a citizen, which he can't. It's already been determined. He's here illegally. That's an open and shut case. Done deal. 2 immigration judges have said he's a member of MS-13. Both of them have determined that he is a criminal illegal alien, therefore slated for expedited removal. Furthermore, when he was arrested alongside 2 other MS-13 members. Now, MS-13 is not allowed to associate with anybody outside the gang unless they're actively recruiting said person or persons to the gang. So, Abrego Garcia was arrested in the company of 2 other known MS-13 members. He was arrested with drugs and cash in his possession. He has already been, his wife, who is fighting for his release, why I don't know, because in 20 and 21, she successfully petitioned the court for 2 protective orders against domestic violence. Abrego Garcia hit her, punched her, ripped her shirt off, scratched her eyeball. I mean, all sorts of bad things. So it has been determined, not just by the Trump administration, but by the courts. It has been further vetted and confirmed by El Salvadorian intelligence and then backed up by U.S. DOJ and U.S. intelligence. Abrego Garcia is a known gangbanger terrorist of MS-13. So he's not going anywhere. So Bukele is not going to release him. He's not going to release him back to the United States because just what's going to happen? Stephen Miller already said, if that happens, we will facilitate his return. We will take him. He will set foot on American soil and within half a second be arrested, detained, incarcerated, and deported again, either to El Salvador or to some other country of his choice who's willing to take him. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous and probably not of his choice. But anyway, this is just absolutely hilarious. So I had the memes were going around the internet. It was just classic. So we've got some of the memes that are out there. Here's one. Bukele to Senator Van Hollen. Here's another one. My God, are you that stupid? I mean, all you had to do was watch his press conference the day before. But in the midst of all this, Donald Trump and the Trump administration are playing this like an absolute Steinway masterpiece. Check this out. I've got 2 clips I want you to see. First, realize that Senator Van Hollen and everybody who was lining up behind him to demand the return, repatriation, and freedom for a known illegal criminal are standing with, we call it the 80-20 rule, they're standing with the 20% of America. We're going to check in with Harry N., who confirms that fact, that Americans want criminals and, frankly, all illegals deported. Check this out.
All undocumented immigrants, voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
Absolutely. So more than half of Americans want every single illegal alien deported. And when you talk about criminal illegal aliens, that number gets into, depending on the poll, the 70s or the 80s, in some cases, even the 90s. Now, while Van Hollen was down there making a spectacle of himself in this ridiculous PR stunt, Donald Trump and the Trump administration absolutely played him because they had a special guest in an emergency press conference with Caroline Leavitt yesterday. Check this out.
To remind the media and the Democrat Party, MS-13 are among the most vicious and dangerous individuals in this world. They pose a direct threat to the United States, El Salvador, and any other country who maintains basic law and order. MS-13 rapes innocent girls and women, runs sex trafficking operations, murders for sport, terrorizes law-abiding people. That's why El Salvador President Bukele made it clear this week that he will not be releasing this MS-13 gang member from his prison. But that is not enough. All of that is not enough to stop the Democrat Party from their lies. The number one issue they are focused on right now is bringing back this illegal alien terrorist to America. But where are the Democrats applauding the fact that southern border crossings just hit a historic low? Where are the Democrats supporting our brave men and women of law enforcement who are putting their lives on the line every single day to arrest the violent illegal alien invaders that the previous administration allowed into our country? And where are the Democrats when innocent Americans are victimized by illegal criminals that Joe Biden let in? It's appalling and sad that Senator Van Hollen and the Democrats applauding his trip to El Salvador today are incapable of having any shred of common sense or empathy for their own constituents and our citizens. Nobody knows this more. Woman standing to my right, Patty Morin, whose beautiful daughter Rachel was brutally maimed and murdered at the hands of an illegal alien in August of 2023. Patty no longer has her daughter because of the failed Democrat Party's open border, and these are policies that President Trump is bringing an end to. Patty should not have to be here today, but she is, and we are grateful and we are honored for her willingness and her request to share her powerful story with the world. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. A lot of you don't know the whole story about Rachel and about the crime that was committed against her. Even us, her family, we didn't know all the details. They kept most of it close to their chest, the detectives, because they didn't want to do anything to hurt the case. They wanted to keep the integrity of the case, so they kept everything close. I sat for the last 2 weeks in her trial, and we saw layer upon layer upon layer of evidence against the accused, an illegal immigrant from El Salvador. And the things that we thought maybe this might have happened, we didn't know. When we were at the trial, we got all the puzzle pieces. And I want to share some of those things with you. You know that Rachel's a 37-year-old mother. She has 5 children. We've walked the trail for the last 25 years that we've lived in Maryland. It's a safe place for our family. It's where we go to get a little bit of New England, because that's where we're from, New England. When she went on that trail that day, she was not planning on dying. She wasn't planning on walking to her death. She was planning on going to the grocery store with her girls afterwards. Victor Martinez, he waited for her. He waited for her to come closer. He saw her. He saw that there was nobody around. He attacked her. He dragged her 150 feet, blood coming from her head. It left a 150-foot trail of blood to the culverts, where he picked her up, he threw her against the wall of the tunnel, and he raped her. But before he did that, he stopped on that trail, and rocks, still stained with her blood, he used them to hammer her head against those rocks. They say at least 20 times they could count the cuts in her head. They said that when they did the autopsy, and I've seen the pictures, there's a 6-inch square in the back of her head where the skull is shattered the way that you would crush an eggshell in pieces. 3/4 of her brain hemorrhaged. Her right and left side of her face.
This is why the Democrats are losing. This is why they have no clue. They do not have a clue. They cannot seem to get it through their thick head why they got lambasted in November and why they are losing now. Now I want to take you to the very end of. We don't have to listen to the whole thing, but I want to listen as Caroline Levitt and Patty Marin were leaving. I want to hear her last words before we end this segment. Check it out.
Please tell the truth. Exactly. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell how violent it really is. This is about protecting our children. It's more than just politics or votes or just anything. It's about national security, protecting Americans, protecting our children. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
It's about protecting our children. And she tells the media, please tell the truth. Stop lying to America. Stop saying that these are all nice, wonderful people when they are not. The vast majority of them are not. They are here illegally, and they are criminals, violent criminals on top of that. That's who Abrego Garcia is. And that's why this story is an absolute killer for the Democrats. They are lining themselves up with the, depending on which poll you listen to, the 5, the 10, or the 20%, while Trump is encamped with the 80% of Americans who want these people gone. And he must have been rolling over with laughter when Van Hollen said he was going to go to El Salvador and demand this guy's release, knowing that Bukele was never going to entertain that idea, and knowing that as soon as he got to El Salvador, they could put this emergency press conference together with Patty Marin and tell everyone exactly why Trump won this election and why his approval rating is still going up, because the border is solved. We went from 10,000 encounters a day down to tens. 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 a day. It's down 95%. People see that, and they also see the deportations, which is what they want. Now, while all this is going on, we've got more good news. The winning just keeps continuing today on a beautiful Thursday where winning is winning is winning. We've got a Democrat civil war. This is one of the most interesting stories, I think, out there. We've got the Dems absolutely crushing each other over how left is the party going to go. You've got the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders of the world, trying to throw the party into pure communism. And they're being followed on by the newest vice chair of the Democrat Party, David Hogg. Talk about unqualified. But anyway, so we're going to dive into that because David Hogg had some interesting things to say. And James Carville, who was a once stalwart Democrat, political pundit and operative and campaign consultant, had a few things to say about it. So let's dive in to a little blue on blue metaphorical violence as the Dems eat themselves. Like we've said over and over again, woke will always eat itself. And this, along with what you just saw in the last segment, remember that politics is all about snapshots and sound bites and contrasts. And just like Trump was able to contrast Van Hollen going to El Salvador to try to rescue a criminal, illegal terrorist gangbanger, he was able to contrast that with Patty Marin telling the story of her daughter. That will resonate with American people. Likewise, this is going to cause the Dems to fall farther because they are trying to skew even farther away from the vast majority of the American electorate. Check this out.
Was trained at the DMV. He was a survivor of the Marjorie Douglas Stoneham catastrophe, apocalypse, whatever you call it, mass murder. And he is a young, but very progressive, in a hurry young man, fine. And he is trying to raise money to primary other Democrats. All right, now wait a minute. Let's get this straight. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he is talking about raising $20 million to primary other Democrats. Well, what I think, ideally, it should be an organization that's trying to beat Republicans, not other Democrats. And if you want to have a kind of squad thing where you go, they never run against Republicans. Understand that. The squad never, ever runs against a Republican.
With the exception of AOC.
Who did she run against?
She ran against a bunch of Republicans in the congressional elections last.
She helped up to plus 30. But I think
she helped to come. But you're right.
She doesn't. We're in a plus 30 Democratic district. I just don't pay attention to you. I understand that, and somebody's got to win. But when you're talking about using the power of the DNC, whatever power it has, it's not very much, but you're using that, and we're paying, Democratic donors are paying David Hogg's salary, they're paying David Hogg's staff, and he wants to run against other Democrats. Well, that's America. Run against who the fuck you want to, but don't stand your position. Guts, man. Have guts. Stand your own. I don't think that I don't think that's part of the Democratic coalition. I don't think they're redeemable. I don't think they want to be redeemed. Then I go back to the emphasis of something called American Voices that is supported by mainstream Democratic groups that had 12 at a meeting this month, April of this year, where they had bowls of buttons where you could put your pronoun and wear your butt. I don't think these people don't think people will get it. I've just, saying now, I think we ought to think about just having a schism. I think these people should get their own party. Don't call it anything Democratic. Call it the Socialist Urban Justice Community Unity Party of the whatever.
Wow, absolutely amazing. That is, I totally get where Carville's coming from, but we got to also remember who Carville is, right? It's not like Carville's trying to skew necessarily to the center, but I mean, he's got to laugh. He wants to have a schism now in the Democrat Party. He wants the progressives to leave. He wants the progressives to get out of the party because they are doubling down on exactly what lost them the election in November. They are doubling down on the border, on open borders, criminal illegal aliens running amok in the streets, them getting paid thousands of dollars of taxpayer money, free housing, free food, free healthcare, free cell phones, free travel. That's what they want from the immigration side. They want an economy that is America last. Let's give money to Ukraine. Let's give money to everybody else. Let's keep getting screwed by trade deals. And they want woke. They want the ultra woke side of the party to triumph. They want pronouns. They want men and women's sports. They want the transgender ideology and religion to be paramount in the Democrat Party. And they want the Democrat Party to become essentially a religion where if you don't subscribe, if you are not woke enough, you are gone. Hence, the David Hoggs of the world are talking about spending millions to primary Democrat incumbents because they are not woke enough. We've said it many times. Other pundits have said it. Bongino, Greg Foreman, everybody has said woke, the left will eventually eat itself because they built this ridiculous coalition on intersectionality and victim Olympics, where everybody is in this stupid hierarchy of how big a victim are you? How far left woke are you? And eventually, no one is going to be woke enough for the next guy. Everyone's going to be trying to outdo them on how big a loser victim you are. And it never works because if you start singling people out, once you balkanize people, you can only tie them together for so long based on victimhood and based on hate for the other party. When the other party starts to see what issues resonate and coalesces around those issues, as the Trump coalition has done, then they are going to start losing because they are going to start eating each other, which is exactly what happened. So David Hogg, how this person ever got elected as vice chair is just amazing. He is absolutely, utterly unqualified, but yet he got elected by these morons. His only claim to fame was he was at Parkland. That's it. The man doesn't have hardly a brain in his head, but here we go. He assumed his position in February, insists on spending $20 million primarying Democrats through Leaders We Deserve, the grassroots organization dedicating to electing young progressives to Congress. So he is basically the vice chair of the DNC, and he has his own basically super PAC that raises money to fight Democrats. I mean, this is just too good to be true. This is what they have become. They are absolutely destroying each other. I interviewed Hogg, said that he would face blowback for his decision to serve simultaneously as top official in the party, which is typically focused on, hey, let's elect as many Democrats as possible, and a leader of an effort to out current Democrat leaders. I mean, this is just classic. I love it. This is going to anger a lot of people. Sure it is. And it's going to help you lose elections because it's not like you're primarying the ultra woke to get to the center. It's not like you're getting rid of the AOCs and the Bernies and the Ilhan Omars and the Jaipals and these morons to get to a more center-left party. No. He's going to throw over, as much as I detest the establishment, some of them are at least center-left. They're going to throw over all the old center-lefts for the ultra-woke nonsense. And it's not going to win them election because Americans don't want ultra-woke. Well, Chris Cuomo had Carville on to discuss this very fact on his show on News Nation. Let's dive in.
legendary Democratic strategist James Carville recently told the progressive branch of his party, hey, maybe you go your way and we go ours. First of all, Jimmy, thank you for joining us. Happy Easter in advance. Rebirth and renewal resonates as much or more than ever. What did I get wrong?
Well, I don't think you got much wrong, but the Citizens United was was Republican plaintiffs, all decided by Republican judges. So let's lay it on the side.
Right.
It's clearly a Republican. What I would quarrel with is not any facts, but what's happening to this guy in El Salvador. The trial judge, the appellate judge, 9 Supreme Court justices back to the trial court said, let him go. They are ignoring a court order. Well, if you do that, we become China. Xi doesn't care what the China.
Now, I'm going to stop it here because obviously before they get into talking about Hogue, Carville wants to go off on this little rant over Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who we discussed in the first segment. But I want to address some of his points here because, again, he is like the reason he's not going to help the Democrats all that much. As much as he is trying to pull some people a little bit to the center, Carville's ultra left. The Democrat Party in general is already ultra left. It's just that the AOCs and the Bernies are going to take it so far left, it's essentially communist or socialist. No, but Bernie is doubling down on this lie that the courts demanded Kilmar Abrego Garcia be released. No, they did not. The 9-0 decision at the Supreme Court, listen to Stephen Miller, specifically says that no court, be it the Supreme Court or a district court, can compel the president or the secretary of state or the Article 2 executive branch to undertake any effort of foreign policy. They cannot do it. And they said, therefore, our order is that the administration facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia, which basically means should El Salvador wish to return him, we cannot deny him entry. We cannot say, no, we reject him at the border. We have to take him back. We have to facilitate his return. But his return would be immediately to a jail cell where he would await another deportation. Because what he fails to tell you is that 2 judges have already weighed in with deportation orders. And a deportation order says that he must be deported. Not that the administration can at their whim. No, he must be deported. So Carville's lying to the American people about this issue before they dive into the hog. I just want to address that.
Chinese court say. So I do think this is an elevated issue because if we don't go and get this innocent person out, who every judge has looked at this, get this guy back home, we'll sacrifice him with God. But I totally agree. The effect of money in politics is sickening. And of course, Citizens United was a totally Republican initiative. But yeah, the Democrats, if you get a designated hitter, we're going to use a designated hitter. But I cannot argue with the fact that money holds way too much sway in politics today.
Well, money holds sway in politics because it holds sway everywhere because we have allowed a very small group of corporate elite to dictate everything that happens in this country. Your party, when it was Bill Clinton and my father nominating him, was he going to run against Bill or not? They were both about the same kinds of things, which were middle-class families. Now, even when it's Bernie and AOC, they seem more like fringe radical types than making the case that I made up at the top.
Let me make a point about Bernie and AOC. But Bernie ran for president twice. He's lost twice. AOC, the guy David Hall, they don't run against the Democrats.
Yeah.
They don't run against Republicans. Well, when you beat a Republican, come back and see me, and I will be impressed. But if you're spending all your time, and I think that's the real problem. And I mean, it's fine. They draw big crowds. They draw everything. That's great. But all they want to do, and all this guy Hogg wants to do, is they want to beat, like Democrats are not the problem right now. What holding an innocent person in El Salvador jail? We're not starting a trade, an ill-thought-out, idiotic trade war. And yet they're spending all their time, a lot of their time, I'll be fair to Bernie and AC, they do attack Trump, but they never run against Republicans. And when Bernie ran twice as a Democrat, he lost, and he lost by a lot. So maybe the Democratic Party is trying to tell you twice. It's probably a lesson there. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, let's be honest. The Democrats twice rigged the primary against Bernie. Not that I'm saying I'm a Bernie fan, but yes, the establishment of the Democrat Party wants very little to do with the ultra left. Now, when you say the establishment of the Democrat Party and ultra left, those two terms are 100% relative because it has moved, it has shifted so far left. What is now the Democrat Party would be unrecognizable, the likes of JFK, would be unrecognizable. It's just absolutely amazing what they stand for and what the likes of JFK, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, stood for. The Democrat Party has been absconded by American communists and globalist communists and taken way far to the left. But he's absolutely right. These people AOC won an election against another Democrat. She gets elected in a district that's D plus 30. No Republican is ever going to win that district. All she had to do was beat the other Democrat. And that's what he's saying. These people can beat other Democrats. They can't beat Republicans.
Listen, I have no problem with more parties. I think that coalitions will probably be a more effective structure than what we have right now because you have a binary battle to the bottom. Which side is worse? That's what these parties spend all their time on.
Well, yeah, maybe you need to stop from the Democratic Party. Call themselves socialists. I don't know, urbanists, central city.
But you know why they're doing it. They looked at MAGA, and they did what we see all the time when you don't have better minds and better ideas. This is why you were so transcendent in politics, is that, and I always find it so cheap when people say, oh, Jim Carville, oh yeah, it's the economy, stupid. No, that wasn't your genius. Your genius was, I'm not going to be what beats me. What you see with Bernie and AOC now is MAGA playbook. Make the masses angry. Dave Hogg, that's MAGA playbook. Go after your own and have a purity test. But what beats you, if you become that, you're not going to beat it.
Right. Well, I don't think the most...
Cuomo's got that right. I mean, they're trying to go ultra far left because they think the Republicans have gone ultra far right because they are so Trump deranged. But the truth of the matter is, Donald Trump has actually drugged the Republican Party more to the center. It is not classic Republican Party. It's not the ultra right that they think. No, they think it's ultra right because they so hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump has actually, I would say, mediated the Republican stance on abortion, which I don't agree with. I think we should absolutely stand on principle on that one. He has introduced tariffs, which is completely against your Republican establishment. This has become not a left versus right fight as much as it is a nationalist versus globalist, a working class versus elite. It's become more of a vertical delineation and a vertical fight than it is a horizontal one. And Trump, in remaking the Republican Party and the Republican coalition, especially if the Democrats continue to skew ultra far left, could possibly set up the Republicans for the next, not only in the midterms, but then the next 8 years after that. It could be absolutely a drubbing for the next decade. Let's hope it is. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate you rolling up. Please let me know how we're doing in the comments. Like, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, please share the Chris Highland Show with everybody that you know. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Until I catch you next time.